idea of using Bitcoin as a store of value is just nowhere near the forefront. So we have to get to a point where we understand that Bitcoin is the medium of exchange, the better medium of exchange. Everyone can interact and transact with Bitcoin as a medium of exchange, but not everyone can transact and store Bitcoin as value. Not everyone has that privilege. Not everyone has obtained that level of wealth where they can store Bitcoin as value. But we all can use Bitcoin as a medium of exchange. So we have to get that narrative out there if we want Bitcoin to be the medium of exchange that allows us to have that unlimited, infinite store of value. That's where we got to get to.
That's a super great point of like a lot of people, like everyone can use it as a medium of exchange, but not everyone can use it as a store of value, because there are a lot of people that just live from month to month. They don't really have something.
Check to check, day to day. I mean, we really have to consider everyone. You know, not everyone has the privilege of diving into fiduciary media products such as MSTR and GameStop. You know, that is a privilege to be able to navigate your way through a substitute money system and increase your value in the substitute money. That is a privilege. Everyone needs to transact some form of commodity as a medium of exchange just to survive, to consume their everyday needs, to fulfill their economic purposes. Everyone needs that. Not everyone has the level to store that value. But if we really want to get there, we have to push this narrative that Bitcoin needs to be used as a medium of exchange. You know, we cannot say it enough. It is the best form of money. We have spent over a century delving into and exploring all the ways and advantages to use substitute money. Okay. 1913 was the beginning of where we are right now in history, if the US dollar as the reserve currency being controlled by a small select group of people. You know, Carl Menger teaches us that money was invented by no one, not a legislative act, but simply as a need to exchange value. We will always have a need to exchange value no matter what system we're operating in. If humans are to survive, if humans are to thrive, we must economize, we must exchange value on all levels, everyone. And then once we figure out the best exchange of value on our own time, by examples of others showing them exchanging and being more productive, having a better means to exchange as value. When others lead by that example, more and more people will come to understand what is the better way to economize. Because just like humans, animals, we all need three things to survive: sleep, water, and food. And that's nothing no one has to teach us. We don't have to ask the government legislation when to sleep, when should we eat, when should we drink. So we certainly can't ask them, when should we economize? How should we economize? What means should we use to economize? That is up to the people. But for some reason, the people have forgotten. We have forgotten that life and existence and purpose is up to us. We are the decision makers. We have employed a government because we think that is a better way to be productive as a society. but we generated that. We chose representatives from our communities to represent our interests. So we must clearly display what our interests are and then allow our representatives to represent our interests. But they cannot represent our interests by just theory of talking about it, of ideology, without practice. We need to practice the interests that we want to be represented. And I understand that taxes is a huge concern, but I'm okay with that. If my government wants to tax me because I've decided to transact in Bitcoin, to buy coffee, to buy a t-shirt, to buy something online, so be it. We're going to get to a point where I'm hoping that enough people will make these same transactions and the government will have to change their mind about the decisions they make because we, the people, are who they represent. And if we, the people, have decided on our own accord without the influence of any central body that Bitcoin is the better means to transact and exchange our values, then we, the people, have that choice to make. And no one can tell us we cannot. Telling me that I cannot economize in the best way I see fit, it's like telling me that I cannot eat, sleep, or breathe.
Love that. And I never understood that argument of taxes because people always bring it up. Oh, but then you pay so many taxes. And for me, the flip side of that is if you say you have, let's say, 90% in Bitcoin and 10% in fiat, and with that 10%, you transact in the fiat world. So you don't pay taxes when you sell fiat, basically, when you spend money. And when you then go ahead and go all in Bitcoin, so you have 100% in Bitcoin, then you pay taxes on the Bitcoin that you sell. But you only pay taxes on the profits. So you made more money than you would have made when you just held on to the fiat. So in order to pay taxes, you have to make a profit from that. So you're actually not losing anything. You're actually gaining value from that because you don't pay taxes on a loss or like something like that.
Right. We're not paying taxes on a loss. So yes, so that's why the best way to, get into Bitcoin is to dollar cost average your way, right? So that, one day you buy Bitcoin at the top, one day it's a little bit down. So you have a nice weighted average of the value of your Bitcoin so that you can transact and not really have to worry about what the taxes or fees were. I'm going to leave that to those who decide that it's worth the process of taxing me to figure out that I am going to just choose a better money to transact in because I understand that this is a better way for me to value myself. This is a better way for me to be productive and economize in the best way that I see fit, which every man has the right to choose. This is where we have to understand. It's a wonderful narrative. We always hear the story. Bitcoin is the best store of value. Yes, it is truly the best store of value, but it is not the best store of value without a medium of exchange. It is not the best store of value without a medium of exchange. It is no value without a medium of exchange. The medium of exchange has to come first. Now, I understand the way Bitcoin technology works. We had to mint Bitcoin. But I don't think it was an accident that Satoshi released half of the supply of Bitcoin within the first 4 years. Because Satoshi understood that in order for Bitcoin to be successful, it had to be a medium of exchange. And it couldn't be a medium of exchange releasing 5%. We had to release a significant amount. And he stated, once a predetermined amount of Bitcoin has been minted, the validators can survive off of transaction fees. While I understand right now that there's not a lot of transaction fees, and that's because we aren't using Bitcoin as a medium of exchange. You know, everyone's hodling Bitcoin. It's wonderful. Let's hodl to the moon. But there will be no moon if we do not transact. you know, so right now, Bitcoin is a wonderful store of value against time. Bitcoin has risen as it has hedged against inflation over time. But we have not seen the true value of the Bitcoin network. As one of your guests you recently had on from Nigeria stated very clearly, the net worth is in the network. So if we don't use the network, the net worth will be a slow, low time preference game. So I have a low time preference. But at the same time, I think that the time preference for Bitcoin would be a little more, faster if we had the Bitcoin use as a medium of exchange on the rise. We have the company, I don't know if you've heard of Steak and Shake here in America, right? So Steak and Shake did a wonderful, remarkable thing. Them allowing payments in Bitcoin is a definite game changer. So now if we can get more big companies that service the public, that have hundreds of millions of customers to allow Bitcoin as a medium of exchange, then we can get to the next level, which is the most important level, that medium of exchange. And then we can all delve into the other aspects of Bitcoin and really focusing in on things such as mining and getting everyone to educate themselves on the Bitcoin technology. So what I'm doing is working with people such as the Mateo and the Orange Pill app, working on the social layer of Bitcoin, because we have to build our social economy and understanding where Bitcoin is and how we get the Bitcoin to be the medium of exchange. So within my social grouping, I am using Bitcoin. I am telling other people to use Bitcoin, find ways to transact in Bitcoin. If we all do that on our local level, then eventually we create mass adoption. But if we don't do that, the mass adoption may never come. And I understand on the technical side, there may be issues with Bitcoin scalability. But I think we're at a point now where we can test out how much scalability we really have on Bitcoin. Let's test it out. If we're waiting for the number to go up and then transaction fees that become extremely expensive, and then the onboarding cost becomes much more expensive for people to get into Bitcoin. No, we don't want to wait for the number to go up and for it to be harder for people to get into Bitcoin. We need onboarding now. We need more people adopting Bitcoin and transacting in Bitcoin now. And let's allow the number to go up because we're processing more transactions. There are more people using Bitcoin. And let's see what Bitcoin scalability looks like. Let's see how many people decide to use Lightning. Let's see how many people decide to use things like Cashew and Fetterman. Let's see how far we can go with the scalability options that we have now. But if we're telling everybody to just store Bitcoin as value, we're not going to get there. 95% of the supply is released. What are we waiting for? 96, 97, 98.3? What's the number? Let's use Bitcoin.
That's a really interesting perspective. Would you say it's ethically wrong to pay people in fiat because we know how bad fiat is?
Robin, you've just opened up another can of worms. Bitcoin has led me to understand what money really is. Robin, for the last 100 years, no one on planet Earth has been living and operating in real money. There's those who have stored gold as a value of money. But every human being that I know economizes, studies, creates debt, tries to find all different kinds of ways to thrive in a substitute money system. And the reason it is a substitute money system is because it has no ability to store value. There has been absolutely zero value created in the money substitute system. What has been created is better ways of obtaining substitute money through fiduciary media products, such as MSTR. Wonderful idea. I don't have a problem with it. Let's build the substitute money so that we can transfer it to real money, the most usable real money, the most saleable real money. There's only one, and it's not gold. Gold has been a wonderful, ancient, historic store of value, but it in no way does it compare to the Bitcoin technology. I understand that is a great way to translate how Bitcoin works to people by using gold as a reference. But Bitcoin is far more superior, far more use cases than gold ever had. So, and indeed, Bitcoin is the most saleable commodity to use as a medium of exchange. And those that know that and continue to push the narrative of operating in substitute money and continue to find ways to sell people products in substitute money, I'm not sure what kind of people they are. I'm not sure if I would classify them as honest, humanitarians, good people, because Bitcoin makes it very clear what a good person is: trustworthy, verifiable. I trust because I can verify, open, not authoritative, allowing everyone to make their own choices and not looking for ways to cancel people for making choices that are not of the greater consensus. So all of the people that spend thousands and countless of hours, days, and lifetimes studying, hundreds of thousands of dollars going to Ivy League institutions to learn how to operate in a broken money system. Now, I understand if you didn't understand the system and you're just following along, you're just observing the best way to economize, because that's what we do as humans. We observe the best way to economize, and then we make those decisions on how to practice those best ways to economize. So for those that did not know any better, they made an honest, conscious decision to study all of these substitute money projects, to learn all of this substitute money terminology, to become extremely knowledgeable and educated in the substitute money system. I'm sorry for those people. And I hope they take the time to learn Bitcoin and learn that there is a better way. And it's going to be people like me and you, and having conversations like this, and having conversations in personal, face-to-face, on a local level, to explain there is a better way to economize, to show there is a better way to economize. But then for that particular group of people who are choosing to push this narrative of operating in this broken substitute money system, well, Bitcoin is letting me know who you are. I know who you are. I can see clearly the kind of person you are. And then on top of that, you have a select few that have not only chosen to push the narrative of the substitute money, but then tell you that they wouldn't touch Bitcoin, that Bitcoin is a bad idea, that it's going to zero. And having the knowledge of knowing exactly why Bitcoin is a better option, I can see those people. Bitcoin has allowed me to see straight through them. You know, from Jason Lowry's standpoint, you know, the soft war aspect of Bitcoin, it is about the survival of the fittest and the strongest. At some point, you will choose to survive and thrive on Bitcoin because it is the better option to economize. You will have no choice. We only need a certain amount of people to start using Bitcoin. And once the engagement begins on that small level where enough people can observe that Bitcoin is the better option to transact in, at that point, they don't even need to know that it's 21 million or 2.1 quadrillion as the new conversation is unveiling. They don't even need to know that. They need to know one thing, that Bitcoin is the more saleable commodity for a medium of exchange. And if I want to economize, and if I want to consume things for my life and myself, I better use the most saleable medium of exchange, or I'm not going to have many options to economize. That's where we're going with this.
That's really good. Thank you for watching this video. This was only a snippet of the podcast. And if you want to watch the full episode and get all of the context of this episode, you can click right here or here. Oh, maybe also here.